Recognize your 5 minutes of
thank you
questioning.
so much to both of you as we continue this really critical hearing. Thank you, Chairman Raskin, for really wanting to put this forward, and thank you to all the honorable representatives of the American people who risk so much for the rights and freedoms of so many. I want you all to know this is, I always have John Lewis right over my shoulder as a reminder that we sometimes, in a nonviolent way, have to push back against oppression and injustice, and you all are doing it. And I think it's extremely patriotic what you all are doing on behalf of your residents. And please don't allow my colleagues to intimidate or bully you. You know what the risks were, but also you know what is at stake. And so I just want you all to know you're inspiring, your courage is inspiring to me. Some colleagues continue to not like the title of this committee. Well, how about we equally are, angry and upset at things like the election was stolen. I'm so appalled by those that continue to enable that kind of rhetoric that really brought so much violence on January 6th to this Capitol. And I want you all to know it wasn't my immigrant neighbors here at the Capitol. They're not attacking our democracy. And this continued to attack, people of color and those as if they somehow were the reason that the outcome of this election was not in their favor. And just remind my colleagues, please, you all won with the same system of democracy. You won your elections with the same system. The forever impeached president won his election with the same system that you are now trying to tear down, that you are trying to dismantle. You all won your elections with that same system that you now are saying is fueled with fraud and all these other things. So I do want, Mr. Chair, if I may, I think it's important to put into the record an article that says Texas had an outsized presence at the Capitol insurrection.
Without objection.
And so let's be clear, these Republican voter suppression bills took pains to avoid mentioning race, but they are aimed directly at American voters of color. This is a blatant, disgusting attempt to return to Jim Crow, disguised by expensive Washington consultants and lobbyists. They're covering it up, but we all know what this is about. We know this is because this playbook isn't new. And I know Ms. Thompson knows this. In 2016, a federal judge struck down similar efforts in North Carolina, where they wrote, quote, although the new provisions target African Americans with almost surgical precision, they constitute remedies for the problems, justifying them and in fact impose cures for problems that did not exist. Thus, the asserted justification cannot and do not conceal the state's true motivation. And now the Texas legislature, and to note, Michigan Republicans, I might add, are now doing everything they can to make it harder for my Black and brown neighbors across the country to vote, wanting to employ these very tools to use the new requirements for mail-in voting to suppress voters of color. These proposed bills immediately create intentional confusion regarding IDs and requirements designed to trick individuals and really intimidate individuals from voting. And I know Nina had talked a little bit about that, and knowing my mother who's an immigrant, it would have devastated her to have that happen to her as she went to exercise her vote. They also are threatening jail time for elected officials who solicit mass mail voter registration applications, criminalizing election officials who encourage citizens to vote, y'all. All of us have done that. Go vote, have your voices heard. Oh, now you're gonna put handcuffs on those people. And while this provision would put election officials in jail for mailing absentee ballot applications to eligible citizens, y'all, it would still allow political parties to do the same thing. I cannot see any good faith reason why political parties would be able to help people vote absentee, but not nonpartisan election officials. We must face the facts about these bills in Texas, in Michigan, and countless others being pushed by my Republican colleagues, enabled by them across the nation. They're an attack on our American democracy. They failed. They failed, and now they want to cheat. And that is the exact truth. They want to somehow dismantle anybody that looks like me or has a name like mine to be able to go vote freely. And it makes me angry because they all benefited from that same system. They all are in their places of power because of that same system. And now because the forever impeached president did not win, they are putting this man before their country. If they do not, the blame for the death of our republic will not fall on those backing the former impeached president, but on those who lack the courage to make a stand. So, Rep. Thompson, I'd like to close by hearing your voice here, which has been very powerful. Why do you think Republicans are pushing to make it harder to vote and going so far as wanting to jail election officials?
Thank you, Ms. Tlaib, and the witness may answer that question, and thank you very much for your questioning.
I think there's a change of the demographics in Texas when we have 84% of the people of color that makes up the population by 29 million people, and only 16% of the people who's been controlling it feel rather threatened at this particular time. That's what I think the whole thing is about.
All right. Now, thank you very much for that answer, and here's what we're going to do. For